welcome to this week's CHD Wise webinar. This webinar will be recorded and posted out to social medias later, as well as emailed out to everyone in the group. I'd like to welcome everyone and to our panelists, Scott and Laura, who will be talking about the Field 2 trial. So just some information for those who are on the call. You are able to post any questions into this question answer box so that we can keep track of them and be able to answer them during the question and answer portion of the session. So first up, we will have Scott Leeser.
Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Leeser, and I today am also involved with the Fuel 2 clinical trial as a part of the study team, really trying to help kind of educate the congenital heart disease community about what is this trial and why it's important to participate. You know, I myself, I'm a single ventricle patient. I was born with double inlet left ventricle. I had a modified Fontan in 1989 and a conversion to an extracardiac Fontan in 2010. I've had a pacemaker since 1989. I'm on currently my 8th device. And also in my professional life, I've done a lot in the congenital heart disease community. I've been a member of Senator Durbin's health policy team. I currently work in the healthcare policy space professional landscape in Washington, D.C., and I work with several congenital heart disease organizations on advocacy and policy initiatives. And I really, personally just see, this is kind of an area where there needs to be additional innovation and additional growth in the treatments that we're providing to patients. Not too long ago, there was a study that was done, the 40-year follow-up from the Fontan operation. Over 1,000 patients had been followed. This is out of Mayo Clinic, and I had gotten my open heart surgeries and my Fontan at Mayo Clinic. So I really am one of the patients in this data set. And I looked at this graph here that kind of really showed what the 10, 20, and 30-year survival is of the Fontan operation. And what I saw here was that in my era, which in 1989, when I had surgery, that over 50% of the patients who are in my surgical cohort are no longer with us. And, that really kind of was eye-opening to me. It really made me think about how lucky I was to live the life that I do, as well as I saw these blank spaces and really about what are we going to do here in the 1991 and onward to really push this 30-year survival for the Fontan population as high as we possibly can. And so, I think that that's a little bit of what we're talking about here today is what are the treatment options? What are the drugs that are under investigation that can help kind of potentially unlock some additional survival years for Fontan patients? And so I think that, Dana's going to talk a little bit about the trial, but I really just wanted to center us here today on, what are we really are talking about and how can we really participating in clinical trials, really unlock kind of potential treatment options that are currently not presently available for patients if they end up working out and the data shows positively. Several years ago, I was invited to watch in on a open heart surgery, and I expected it personally to kind of have a big impact on me. But I also expected this very high stakes moment of kind of ER television, big drama. What I saw instead was I saw a lot of doctors and surgeons and nurses and OR staff just doing their job, and to them, it wasn't just about a successful surgery. It wasn't just about getting that patient from the OR room to the recovery room. It was really what was going to be a literally life-defining day in this child's life and a 9-month-old baby. And what they were offering him wasn't just to get him to the recovery room, but rather to give him birthday parties and to give him family vacations and to give them, opportunity to graduate from college and to have a professional career and to get married and to hopefully at one point have a family of their own. And so, I think today really is an opportunity for us to talk about innovation in the Fontan space so that we can really be able to potentially unlock new treatments, unlock opportunities to better understand what research exists in this space. And I hope that you'll all listen with interested ears and potentially join us in this Fuel 2 study. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dana.
Wow, that was awesome, Scott. I did not know that about you. All right, let me share my screen with you guys. So just an introduction of who I am. My name is Dana Lindsay. I am involved in the Fuel 2 trial. A little background on me. I am a registered nurse and worked for most of my nursing years in the pediatric CVICU. So postoperatively, I took care of Fontan patients, any of the CHD patients, and this population is very, very important to me. And it's always stayed close-knit throughout my nursing life. So today I'm going to talk to you about participation in the Mezion Fontan Udenafil Exercise Longitudinal Assessment Trial. Whew, that was a mouthful, but we're going to go with Fuel 2. So our goals for today are enhancing your knowledge and understanding of clinical trial participation, knowing what questions to ask when considering clinical trial participation, learn common terminology of clinical trials, and then we'll do a little bit of a walkthrough of participation in the Fuel 2 clinical trial. So let's start at basics. What is a clinical trial? So it's a research study where people volunteer to help answer questions about potential new treatments. These have not been approved by the FDA. So what kind of questions are we asking? Is this treatment safe? Is this effective? Can this improve quality of life? New treatment options would not be possible without clinical research studies and clinical research participants. Investigators are clinicians conducting the clinical trial to enroll volunteers at clinical sites. And each site follows a clear study plan, and it's called a protocol. So what does it mean to participate in a pediatric clinical trial? So doctors are selected to help run clinical trials by offering this option to patients and their families. The doctor or their staff will talk to the child and their family about the trial. And if they are interested, the parent or legally authorized representative, or LAR, will be given an informed consent to review and sign. This is a very thorough process. You'll have one-on-one time with your clinician, whether it be a nurse, a doctor, a study coordinator, to ask any questions that you have and help you understand the process. So the doctor and clinical staff will answer any of your questions again. Children of a certain age will be asked to provide an assent. That basically is a fancy term for that they agree with the decision of their parent or LAR to participate in the clinical trial. Participants will be evaluated to see if they qualify, and if so, they will be enrolled in the trial. A schedule for treatment and study procedures will need to be followed. So I think this is a very important topic on our last bullet point. Is participation is voluntary and may end at any time by the participant, family member, or by the study team. So let's look at a pathway for participation. So we would identify a patient by their diagnosis. For the Fuel 2 study, we identify patients with the Fontan physiology. You would have a patient referral to clinical trial site. So if your primary cardiologist or primary caregiver knows about the trial and is not a participating site, they can refer you to a site. So they would do a pre-screening to confirm eligibility, reviewing your medical record and medication list. And at that point, you would be provided informed consent or assent. Then we would have a screening assessment, randomization into study treatment, and then participation in the clinical trial. So, questions that Fuel 2 is trying to answer. So what is the point? Why are we doing this? So our main question or primary endpoint is, does sildenafil improve exercise capacity? Does sildenafil improve breathing efficiency? Does sildenafil improve activities of daily living? Does it improve liver fibrosis? Does it increase ability to do more work and move around? And are there any additional side effects? So the procedures that we do during the trial are to answer these questions. So why use a placebo? Well, what is a placebo? So a placebo is a pill that looks just like the study medication, but does not contain active medication. Well, why would we use that? We would use that because there are no approved standard care options. A placebo is required to determine if sildenafil is effective. Volunteers will be randomized into either the placebo or sildenafil, meaning that they would be randomly assigned at chance. So Fuel 2 is a double-blinded study, meaning that the study doctor, Mezion is the sponsor, and the patient or family know which treatment they are being assigned to. Either placebo or sildenafil will be taken at home during the treatment portion of the study. So why sildenafil in individuals with Fontan physiology? There is a clear unmet need for approved treatment for those living with a Fontan palliation. Sildenafil is a selective PDE5 inhibitor. We know that it lowers your pulmonary vascular resistance, demonstrates good safety and tolerability in those with Fontan circulation based on previous trials, and it's available in oral pill. In a previous study, participants with peak exercise capacity less than 80% did show statistical improvement in their ability to do more work and breathe more efficiently. So key enrollment criteria. What kind of patients are we looking for? What kind of patients would qualify to be in this study? So we want a patient with Fontan physiology between the ages of 12 to 18 years old, peak VO2 between 46 and 79% of predicted for age and gender, no previous PDE5 inhibitor use within the last 12 months, ability to complete exercise testing, certain medications are restricted or prohibited, must be taking anticoagulant or antiplatelet medication. Certain progressions or characteristics of the physiology may impact eligibility. So these and other assessments must be completed by the site to ensure participants qualify for the study. So study involvement, your treatment period, what does it actually look like? What does being in the Fuel 2 clinical trial look like? So on your screening and baseline visit, which would be week 1, that's usually done on the same day after your informed consent. If patients are eligible, they are randomized to receive either placebo or sildenafil. There is a 50% chance of being assigned to either group, so 1-to-1. 50% will go into the sildenafil 87.5 milligram twice a day, and the other 50% will go into the placebo twice a day. Medication is self-administered at home and may be delivered directly to you at your home. So then we move into weeks 1 through 24. These are telephone calls. So you have 10 total telephone calls to ensure compliance with medication. And then the end of treatment visit would be an in-clinic visit on week 26 to repeat the exercise testing. At the week 30, we would have a follow-up phone call. So that is 11 phone calls and 2 study visits. When I was a study coordinator, that was something that I always worried about, is what is the burden on the patient and the family? And this study has done a really good job of lowering that burden so that the parents of children who may or may not be able to drive don't have such a heavy load. So what are our study assessments that are required? So medical and medication history, blood and urine, samples, and then we'll do an e-diary at home, and that will be completed by the participant or family member. This can be a phone that's provided by the study or an app so that you don't have to keep up with 2 devices. There will be a CPET testing at day 1 and at week 26, height and weight, and then you'll receive study medication to take it home. So this is a really important slide to me because what to ask when considering clinical trials is very important for any age, but especially in pediatrics. So any and all questions are good questions. I always tell any of my patients, make sure you bring a notepad. When your clinician brings up a clinical trial to you, write down any questions that you have, and that way you don't forget. So you can take notes and speak with your clinician. So you want to ask, what are the known risks for participation? Ask the team about known risks or side effects. These will be discussed with you, as we talked about earlier, in the informed consent process. But if you have any question, again, going back to bullet 1, no question is not a good question. So what will be required of us? You want to ensure that you understand exactly what the schedule of events is and what you will be able to accommodate. So you want to know, who should I contact if there's a problem or I need additional support? What if there's a change in plans with travel? That will be provided to you. It's normally a study coordinator, but make sure you ask and write down a good phone number. So that way, if there are changes, or we all know that plans change, you have who to call and when to call. So take the time to think of questions and talk to your doctor and other members of your healthcare team. So you can scan the QR code here if you want more information. This will bring you to our website, and a representative will reach out to you if you sign up, ask you a few questions, and then we'll put you in contact with the site that is closest to you geographically. As a participant in the study, all treatments, medical assessments that are required by the trial will be provided at no cost to you. Compensation of up to $490 is available for time and travel. This does not include any hotel stays or flights. Those will be covered by the study. So thank you again for letting me present. I am very passionate about this trial, and I want to open it up for questions if anybody has any.
Great. Thanks, Dana. We had a couple questions in the chat. One was, is aspirin considered an anticoagulant, antiplatelet? I directed Dana for them to ask that question to a clinician at one of the clinical trial sites. Do you think that that's the best course of action for that? And one of the best ways to be evaluated for the clinical trial is to fill out this sign-up form that I also put, I typed into the Q&A. And somebody will give you a call and we can schedule a visit. And like Dana said, all of the time and travel will be covered as part of this clinical trial, as part of the clinical trial, and all of the treatments as well. The exercise test, any of the medications, all of that is covered free of cost to the participants as part of this clinical trial. But Dana, I kind of cut you off from your answer. Is that the best place to ask questions like anticoagulant and aspirin?
Yes, absolutely. Ask your clinician. They will readily give you a response.
We have another question that says, what is the time frame? My son is scheduled for major surgery in August. So I guess, what's the time frame of participants in the Field 2 trial? Do you guys have a hard stop, or?
So there is a lot of good information on clinicaltrials.gov to look at, so to provide education for this particular study. But they do not have a hard stop date with enrolling in pediatric trials and a lot of adult trials too with rare disease. You want to have a certain amount of patients or participants enrolled in the study. So that's going to be the stop time.
Just to add on to that, I believe that this clinical trial is going to be recruiting for at least 18 months, and we're about at month 6 right now. So there's probably a whole nother year that this is going to be recruiting. So Lisa, if it's better for your son to wait to recover from spine surgery before enrolling in the clinical trial, I think that it certainly will be open probably through the end of this year and early next year to give him time to recover.
Absolutely. But I do think that if you were able to get the QR code and to sign and just kind of get information, that's always a good thing, is getting information and kind of educating yourself.
Great.
Any other questions? Just want to make sure give people one more minute maybe to submit a question if you have one. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Scott, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say thank you, Carissa, for hosting this webinar. I think this has been very helpful. So I appreciate being able to work with Conquering CHD to kind of help get this information out. And Dana, I appreciate you taking the time to educate us as your role on the clinical trial team.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So like I said in the beginning, this webinar has been recorded and we will work on getting it posted, and hopefully it'll be available tomorrow afternoon, and you can find it on YouTube. We'll also send it out to anyone who registered as well, and will be posted to the socials. And thank everyone for joining. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks, everyone.